again, welcome back. It's Laura, and I am very excited about today's antique junk journal because first of all, I am using one of my bookhouse books from the series, and this is the 1925 series. So this is a 100-year-old book this year, and I'm surprised at how great the cover plate is. And it's got this wonderful little girl and little boy trying to open the lock on the gate. So it was a perfect time for me to get out some little treasures that have been sitting in my chest for several years now. And it's this lock and key. They're rusted up. They're beautiful. These are actual artifacts. These aren't fakes. So I just thought, how perfect is that? So they now live with this journal, and they're on loop pins, so you can remove them if you want. I actually have some in a frame that look beautiful together. But in the meantime, let me take on a little tour of this very large journal, which is 7 by 9 1/4, which is a big junk journal. And of course, everything in here is authentic, antique, and vintage ephemera, stuffed to the point where it almost doesn't close, and with all kinds of treasures and hidden pockets, and you're just going to love what's in here. So right away on the first page here, I've stuffed in this wonderful little 1940s plate from a children's book. Look at that sweet little kitten there. And this is a very cool page from a magazine. There we go. From 1955, so 70 years old, and advertising all different books. And the reason I laugh is because I've used a few books as junk journals here. So I thought that was really fun. And this is a teeny tiny little 1940s baby shower card. Look how sweet that is, from Ida. And sometimes you know they're old just by the names that they used, right? You can journal inside that. 1938 flinch card, and one of these incredibly special, can't believe I'm parting with it, vintage cards that you get in, like this one is from Red Rose Tea, and you would buy the box of tea and get a little card inside. So it took forever to get a whole collection. So this is the original first page of the book. It is quite brittle. So to the new owner of this journal, whom I don't know who they are yet, just be careful with these first pages. I've reinforced them on a hinge here. And we've got the publisher's date there. This is actually just the second edition of this. And then this is from an antique book here. It's a little map of Puerto Rico. Really fun cluster pocket there. And then over here, this is from the back of a receipt booklet, something like this receipt here, but a different one. And that's one of Stacy's Maple Grove Dairy receipts from the 50s. And this one here is a hand-typed research paper. It's actually 2 pages, but you can do some great journaling on the back of that as well. I just love those so much. This is a really fun page here, how to set your elegant table. And then over here are fun desserts for a bridal party. This is a vintage Trees of America book page, and I love the choke cherries there. They're beautiful. And this is from an antique Birds of America book here, double-sided there. And then how much are you going to love this? From 1933. Look at that wonderful advertisement, now sealed in cans, this motor oil. And then on the back are just the best little advertisements here. They're really, really fun. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I love it. It's hard to get these really heavy, hard, full color pieces. So that's really special. This is from a vintage bird book again. Look at that, how wonderful. Now this is really special. This is from a 1938 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs painting book. So you can see where some wonderful little child, almost 100 years ago, got their little paints and painted this page here. And this is just an iconic scene here from Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. There's Grumpy. And then this here came from a Danish book from 1923. And I just loved the graphics on it so much I couldn't use the cover. So I made it into tags, and I just love the fonts and everything on there. I love everything about it. Here is another great piece from the 1950s from a sort of a teen magazine, singing and music. And then just, yeah, the best advertisements and articles down here. Really fun. And this is probably one of my favorite postcards here of all time. This is a beautiful street scene in Bradentown, Florida, on Prospect Avenue, and it is from 1909. And I just think it is so pretty. Look at that, the horse and buggies going down the street. That would have been a very special postcard to receive. More of those fun table settings. I should actually take a picture of that before I put it in, because I never know how to set my table properly. I'm one of those people. This is a great 1941 set of stamps here, and they're actually Canadian stamps, and I'm Canadian, and I did not know, after all these years of doing vintage ephemera, I did not know that we had 2.5 1/4 stamps. So that's 2 3/4 worth of stamps. Just, that was during the war. Maybe that was a wartime thing. I don't know. I've never seen it before. And this is the front page of the Tin Flute book, which I made into a journal many years ago, but found that piece there in my collection. And I know this is funny, but it is vintage, and I should have looked at the value before I did this, but it's from 1967, one of the Planet of the Apes collector's card. It's vintage. It counts. Here is just another vintage piece from a trading card game, and I just thought it was fun. You could rip it up and tear it and make fun clusters out of it. That is from a 1950s Raggedy Ann book. A vintage bird book here, Birds of America again, one of the black, oh no, that's from the Audubon, sorry, wonderful Audubon page. Vintage ledger sheet, this is from the 1920s, Needleworks book. And this is really cool. This is an original spine of a book. And when you see these books that have the ridges on the side there, that's actually rope underneath the leather, and they push the leather into the rope to lift it, and then they gold gild it. And I just love it. I think it's beautiful. So I just left it alone. It's sort of just a beautiful decoration. And that's a plate from the early 1900s as well. There's a beautiful lynx. Another Birds of America from the Audubon book there. And a children's book page from 1940 pocket. This is another wonderful antique piece, and it's on a board that was a mat for an antique picture. Another wonderful children's book page. Now this is really cool. You'll see this as a journal in the coming weeks, Daisy. This was the original dust cover, and I often sometimes tear them up because I use the back and the front and all kinds of pieces, but it's odd to find an intact dust cover from the 1920s, 1930s, which this is, and that image is spectacular, and it's the same one that's on the plate on the cover of the book, so really cool. Thought you could do a lot of journaling in there. This is from a 1940s children's book. Look at the color on there. I've never seen such vivid colors. And even though on the back it says this is a chair, just so you know, this is not a chair. The chair was on this page. This is another beautiful vintage playing card that you can upcycle into something lovely. And a couple of 1960s probe cards. And again, oh, RN, if you're a nurse, you should get this. I can change these out for any letters you want. Just let me know at checkout. And this is a 1920s snap card. These were made in England. Another really sweet children's book page there. And then I've got this really cool 1935 picture here. And this looks like a group of ladies. Maybe they were a club taken at Miss Beasley's. Oh my God, that's awesome. Yeah, maybe they were a knitting club or a quilting club, church group. I made this fun cluster here on an antique book page, and then I added, to make sort of this little booklet, there's 3 pages back here. They're almost tissue-like or onion paper-like, but I just think they're so pretty. So you can journal back there as well, and that is from 1925, so another 100-year-old thing in this beautiful book. And this is one of my favorite things here. This is from the school architecture book, and it's from the 1856, and they show how to make all the things you would need in a school. And these ones here are pneumatic apparatus, so things that you could make in a science classroom. That is just magnificent. So I didn't cover it at all, and you'll see another cool thing on the flip side. That is an antique music sheet, 1887. I just love this. It's a musician playing for all the children, maybe in their school, it looks like. They are dressed up, so maybe it's a masquerade party. Just really, really fun. And then this is from a 1937. Beautiful image there. I put antique paper on the back for you to write your thoughts. And here's that other side of that school architecture book. And it's all about not just making furniture in schools themselves, but how to make maps and chairs and globes and bookbinding. Of course, I found that incredibly interesting. Vulcanized rubber for erasers, blackboards. Like, it's so cool. Pens and pencil wrappers. I was fascinated by this, and only after I had put it in the journal, so I couldn't rip it out and keep it. But I really love that. I think it's really special. More lovely different books, children's book pages. And here is another beautiful, that is the Palais de Versailles in France. Is that beautiful? That is from the 1932 French Almanac book. And this is a really cool recipe that was in somebody's recipe book. Ooh, okay, I don't even know how they got it this big, but jams and marmalades with Sure-Gel. This is one that Paige sent me. Is that fun? So you can have all kinds of fun with that piece. Some graph paper here, 1955 postage stamp. And this is the back of a book I could not use, but it's a library book, so it's still got the little hand type library. You can tell how long ago that was in a library by the typesetting there. And then I love this. Boop, boop, boop. Come on up. Isn't that great? I just love old library cards. I love them, and the pockets. So I just had to put this whole thing in. I thought it was really fun. And this came from a 1960s book about famous artists. And of course, that is one of the most iconic pieces of art there. And that brings us almost to the end. Here we go. So I hope you love it as much as I loved making it. You can find that at hyperstamper.etsy.com. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and come back soon. Bye for now.